Hello, I'm Randy Boggio, and I am a shareholder at Amundson Boggio. I've been practicing for about 38 years, and two main areas of practice is elder law, or our elder law, and special and supplemental needs trust. And in those two areas, we come across questions on a daily basis regarding Social Security benefits. And we're okay on the basics, but when it gets too complicated, we call on our friend Ed Olson to help out. And it's been kind of a friend and colleague for a number of years. So Ed, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself in practice?
Thank you, Randy. My name's Ed Olson. I am with Disability Attorneys of Minnesota. I have been practicing for about 30 years now, concentrating in the area of Social Security disability. So I represent people claiming Social Security disability benefits.
Great. Good. And that's really the focus of your practice, correct?
Correct.
All right, and now what I've done is I've put together a few questions here, and the questions are really crafted with how our practices overlap and the kind of questions that we have for you and the kind of questions that our clients have when dealing with the possibility of applying for or losing their Social Security benefits. So my first question is it possible for a child who is under the age of 18 to receive Social Security benefits? And if so, what type of benefits does a child looking at, and how do they qualify for those benefits?
Okay, so Randy, let me start at the very beginning. Social Security administers two different types of disability benefit programs: the Supplemental Security Income program and the Disability Insurance Benefit program. Both of these programs have the same basic medical requirements. An individual has to have a medical impairment that causes more than a minimal effect on their ability to engage in work activity, and it's lasted for at least 12 months. But the programs have significantly different non-medical requirements. And I'm going to start with supplemental security income because that one's a little easier to explain. Supplemental security income is a need-based benefit. It is means tested. So if an individual has assets or income, they can be disqualified from supplemental security income regardless of their medical condition. Now, a child or an adult can be eligible for supplemental security income. I'll tell you what the interesting thing about this is, I think the standard for children to meet for SSI is actually a little more difficult than the standard for an adult. Okay, childhood SSI cases are difficult to prove. Now, the other benefit is disability insurance benefits. And the most important non-medical requirement for disability insurance benefits is the individual that is applying has to have worked enough to pay into the system to be covered. As the name implies, it is like an insurance program. That FICA tax you see coming out of your paycheck every 2 weeks is in effect paying the premium on a long-term disability policy. Now, generally, children under the age of 18 haven't worked enough to be insured for the disability insurance benefit program. But if they have a parent who is disabled or deceased, they may be eligible, a child under the age of 18 may be eligible for benefits based on that parent's earnings record. Children under the age of 18 can qualify for supplemental security income based on their own medical problems.
And if a child is, if we're looking at qualifying a child for SSI, so supplemental security income, and they meet the definition of a disabled individual, do we also have to look at what the parent's income is in order to determine if they qualify?
Yes, that is the non-medical requirement. The parent's assets are examined to see if they have too much. And if they do, then the child will be disqualified from supplemental security income based on the parent's income or assets. That's called what Social Security calls deeming. They deem the assets of the parents to the child. Now, should that situation occur, that's where somebody like Randy comes in to help those parents structure their assets so that the child might qualify for SSI.
So really for SSI, no matter how basically extreme a disability would be for a child, if their parents are making a certain amount of income and have a certain amount of assets, that child's not going to qualify for SSI benefits.
Correct. They will be disqualified based on the non-medical requirements.
Got it. Okay. And for individuals that are over the age of 18, but under retirement age, under what circumstances would an individual qualify and receive Social Security benefits?
Okay, so the basic definition is, then the way Social Security goes about determining eligibility for disability benefits is the first thing they ask is if an individual is working. And if an individual is working and earning a certain amount of money, that right now this year, that is $1,310 or more per month, and that's gross, not net. So before taxes, if you're earning that amount, you are disqualified from benefits regardless of your medical condition. Again, let me be clear, that pertains to disability insurance benefits. You have to show that the individual claiming benefits has to show that they have a medical impairment that has lasted or can be expected to last 12 months or more or result in an early death and causes more than a minimal impact on the ability to engage in work activities. So in other words, you get a hangnail, you get a sprained thumb, you get a bump on your foot, that's probably not going to meet the durational and severity requirements, all right? Social Security then has developed what they call their listings of impairments. And a colleague of mine used to describe the listings as, think of it as a cookbook. It's got certain criteria, it's got certain elements, and if you have one of those listed conditions and you have all of the ingredients, you meet the other criteria, Social Security will find that you are disabled and entitled to benefits. Okay, a brief example, if you have, say, a bulging disc in your back, and we can show on x-rays that that disc is impinging on a nerve root, and because of that, you've had experienced muscle atrophy in one of your legs, and there's reflex loss and loss of strength, then you're going to be entitled to benefits. You will have met the criteria contained in the listings. If you don't meet the criteria contained in the listings, that doesn't mean you lose. It means we keep moving. And at this point, the Social Security Administration tries to determine an individual's residual functional capacity. And what that means is, what can the person still do in spite of the limitations caused by their impairments? Once the residual functional capacity is determined, then Social Security will match that up against the requirements of the work that the individual has been doing. And if the individual can show that because of their residual functional capacity, they can't perform the work that they had been doing before, then we move to the next step. If that residual functional capacity would allow for the performance of past work, then the inquiry stops and the individual is found to be not disabled. But let's move on. So we get the residual functional capacity. A person's restricted to lifting 10 pounds occasionally and can't be on their feet for more than a couple hours out of an 8-hour day. And the work they'd been doing before had been like construction work, heavy work. So obviously with the 10-pound lifting limitation and restriction to being on your feet, they can't do construction. Does that mean they're entitled to disability benefit? Not yet. We now have to show that person is not capable of performing any other work that exists in significant numbers in the national economy. So for an individual underfilled sedentary work, they're not going to be disabled, all right? One of the few things Social Security has done right in their disability determination process is they realize that as we grow older, our ability to adapt to different types of work situations decreases. We can't teach an old dog new tricks. So the rules change once an individual reaches age 50, and they change again once an individual reaches age 55. As we grow older, it becomes easier to meet the standard for a finding of disability.
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so if somebody is applying for Social Security benefits in this age group, do they have to show they don't have very many assets or any source of income?
Okay, that's a good question. For supplemental security income to be eligible for SSI, yes, you would have to show that you meet the non-medical requirements, that you don't have disqualifying assets or income. Now, for disability insurance benefits, it's a completely different story. You could have millions of dollars of assets. You could have millions of dollars of income, as long as that income's passive, if it's not from work, and still be eligible for disability insurance benefits.
Got it. And so we're looking at the disability insurance is really, as you described, more of an entitlement program. You've been paying into that. You've been paying the premium on the insurance out of your check.
Correct.
And pay it up to a certain point. Now you can be eligible if you meet the medical disability. And with the supplemental security income, that's a needs-based. You still have to meet the medical requirements, but then they are going to ask you what you have in the bank and how many cars you have and that type
Of course. Yep.
Got it. Is there situations where, say, an individual is on SSI, and then a parent dies or retires, and then their benefits change at that point?
Yes, that situation can occur. Randy, the Social Security Administration, of course, I mean, when you go to this, it's almost like Dante's Inferno. When you go to the Social Security Administration, you abandon all open logic. And okay, they used to have, the way they named the benefit program before made more sense to me. It was called the Disabled Adult Child Benefit. It's now called Child's Insurance Benefits. But the disabled adult child to me made more sense. And here's what, let's say we've got an individual who has been on supplemental security income beginning with age 21. And they've been collecting their SSI for 4, 5, 15, 20 years, whatever. Then a parent who was insured for disability insurance benefits passes. Now this individual can collect benefits based on the parent's income. And this again becomes a disability insurance benefit. So now there are no restrictions on assets. They don't have the same restrictions on income. There still are some, but they don't have those. So, the key there is we have to have somebody who became disabled prior to age 22, has never engaged in what Social Security defines as substantial gainful activity after age 22, and has not been married.
Got it. Wow. So, Ed, these benefits are all set forth, and you've set forth the process for receiving them. What is the process if a person applies for benefits and is denied by the Social Security Administration? Do they just have to give up, or is there a process you can kind of summarize for us that a person would go through? And then really, as a side note, how an attorney like yourself would fit in.
Okay.
That.
Sure. Oh boy, is there a process? You better believe it. An individual who's denied Social Security disability benefits has appeal rights, and the process is very structured. An individual makes an application for benefits. If that application is denied, the Social Security Administration, they have to send the person a denial notice, and it will say notice of disapproved claim. And that's the same whether it's a claim for supplemental security income or disability insurance benefits or child's insurance benefits, or all three of them. You get a notice that says notice of disapproved claim. The individual has 60 days from the date of that notice to appeal. And there's many ways they can appeal. Do it online if they're computer savvy. They can call the Social Security Administration's toll-free number and say that they want to appeal. But really the best way is call a competent, qualified attorney and have them help you with the appeal. That's the best way. Social Security has several levels of appeal. There's the request for reconsideration, which is the first one. Then there's the administrative law judge hearing, which is the step in the process where an individual stands the greatest chance of being successful in their claim for benefits. That administrative law judge hearing level is also the step in the process where a competent attorney can be of the most assistance. And the reason it's important to have competent representation at that administrative law judge hearing is because with each successive appeal after that, your appeal rights are restricted. And if things are not done properly at the hearing, if the record is not properly made and protected, that's going to make it very, very difficult to be successful at any appeal stage after that administrative law judge hearing.
Got it. Is there a general percentage of denials on applications? I mean, is there a number you can say, well, out of all the applications filed, 30% are denied at the first application part and make people go through this process, or isn't that really?
No, yeah, that's every year Social Security publishes statistics and they call it, for some reason, I don't know why, their waterfall chart. Now, here's the thing. Over the last 10 to 15 years, these statistics have been fairly consistent. At the initial stage of for the application, roughly 2/3 of all applications across the country, and that's for all ages and all types of benefits, roughly 2/3 of applications are denied.
Wow.
When you file a request for reconsideration, roughly 9 out of every 10 requests for reconsideration are denied. Now, I know that, the obvious question was, well, then why do I do that? Why don't I just request a hearing before an administrative law judge? You can't. That's the process. You got to go through the process. Now, the one good thing about that request for reconsideration, long. From the time you file the appeal till you get a determination, I mean, I've got some in like 2 or 3 weeks, so it doesn't take long. Yeah.
Doesn't take long for them to say no.
Exactly.
Got it. That they're efficient at.
Right.
Well, good. Well, I think that's the time we have today. We may do this again at some other point and maybe kind of pick one of the benefit areas or situations and go into it in more detail. I really appreciate your time today and going through this. I'm hoping that it's helpful for people who are looking at watching the video or reading it, and at least help them start off in the right direction or have a general understanding of Social Security benefits.
Randy, thank you for having me. And yeah, if you decide to do this again, I would be happy to participate. Thank you.
Thank you.